Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking a scalpel to one of the most polarizing, most complex characters ever written in modern fantasy, Severus Snape.
He really is.
I mean, this is a man whose secret love, his ultimate sacrifice, it's at the very core of the entire Harry Potter narrative.
It is. But you can't just look at the heroic end. I think it's absolutely essential to hold both truths in mind with Snape. He's the hero Harry names his son after, sure, but the list of, well, shady stuff he did is just, it's incredibly long.
Okay, let's just dive right into that list, because it gives us all the context we need.
Right.
We're talking about a man who hated Harry, not for anything Harry did, but just because he looked like his father, James.
And this was while he was supposed to be protecting him on Dumbledore's orders. It's that personal grudge always came first.
It totally corrupted his duty, and it fueled his outright cruelty in the classroom. Think about Neville Longbottom.
Oh, Neville. It's heartbreaking. I mean, the Boggart in Professor Lupin's class literally
That's canon proof. Snape was literally this child's worst fear.
And then you have Hermione. He constantly went after her, calling her an insufferable know-it-all, probably because she had the kind of brilliance he had, you know? But she was using it for good.
Absolutely. And that's all before we even get to him being a full-on card-carrying Death Eater.
He joined willingly. He wasn't coerced. He went to Voldemort. He heard the prophecy. And when he figured out it might be about the Potters, what did he do?
He begged Voldemort to spare Lily.
Just Lily. Only Lily. The sources are so clear that he had zero concern for James or for baby Harry. Lily's death is what it took to flip him.
And even after that, his personal spite caused so much damage.
You're talking about occlumency.
Exactly. His refusal to properly teach Harry occlumency. That one failure, driven by his hatred for Harry, it leads directly to Sirius Black's death.
It's a very dark record. Personal failings constantly getting in the way of the greater good.
It's a huge list. But to understand his value to Voldemort, we have to pivot. We need to look at his singular magical talents and focus on one dark secret that might just be the
ultimate piece of magical forensic evidence.
The drink of despair.
That emerald green potion, the one that was guarding the locket Horcrux in the cave. This substance was terrifying. It forces the drinker to relive their absolute worst, most excruciating memories until they're just completely broken.
And the only real clue we have about who made it comes from Dumbledore himself.
Right. He's standing there looking at it, and he says that creating something like this would require, what was the phrase?
An uncommonly gifted potioneer and master of the dark arts.
And when you hear that description, gifted potioneer and master of the dark arts,
there's really only one name that comes to mind, especially in the right time frame.
Severus Snape.
This is the core of our deep dive.
Yeah.
The theory that Snape wasn't just a spy, he was the master craftsman who delivered this masterpiece of dark magic.
And that creation is what proved his indispensable worth to Voldemort, how he got to be number 2 without the usual resume of, loyalty and murder.
Okay, let's unpack that. The status issue.
Yeah.
Because this is where the theory really starts to click. How, if he's secretly working for Dumbledore, does he have such an incredibly high rank with the Death Eaters?
It's a huge paradox. By the start of Half-Blood Prince, sources are clear. He is effectively Voldemort's number 2.
This isn't just a middle management job.
No. This is right after Lucius Malfoy has that spectacular failure at the Voldemort needs a new, reliable and he makes it clear. His plan is for Snape to be the one to kill Dumbledore when Draco...
Not Bellatrix, who is way more fanatically loyal.
Not any of the other seasoned Snape. That means he holds this position of immense trust and honor.
But that's where it just falls apart. If you look at the Death Eater HR man, what does Voldemort?
Power. Total, unquestioning loyalty and a willingness deadly.
Okay, so Snape is powerful. We can grant him that. We see it time and again. But loyalty?
It was a known issue. Everyone in the inner circle knew he was a double agent who stayed at Hogwarts, right next to Dumbledore, after fell.
Bellatrix literally puts him on trial at the start of Half-Blood Prince. She straight up doesn't trust him.
Exactly. She gives him this whole inquisition. So if his loyalty is openly being questioned by the most loyal follower, how does he command that rank?
And it gets even weirder when you look at the other requirement, deadly. There's that crucial, heartbreaking detail we learn late in the story. Snape's soul had to have been whole before he killed Dumbledore.
Right. The whole reason Dumbledore asks him to do it is to spare Draco's soul from being torn by murder.
And Snape's concern for Draco's soul, that implies his own, was still intact, which leads to this wild conclusion.
That Snape, Voldemort's number 2, his top lieutenant, had never killed anyone before that night on the astronomy tower.
Wait, how is that even possible? The Dark Lord's top guy has a clean kill count. Why would Voldemort, of all people, be okay with that?
It completely contradicts everything we know about his value. What incredible singular service could Snape possibly offer that lets him bypass the #1 job requirement for being a top Death Eater?
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, it does if you look at the other spy in the organization.
Wormtail. Peter Pettigrew.
Exactly. The contrast between them is stunning. If being a valuable spy was enough to get you to the top, Wormtail should have been sitting right next to...
I mean, you could argue Wormtail was more instrumental to Voldemort's success than anyone. He was the one who broke the Fidelius charm on the Potters,
which led directly to Voldemort finding them. And then, years later, he's the one who performs the ritual to bring Voldemort back.
Gets the silver hand for it and everything. These are huge, existentially important acts for the Dark Lord.
And yet, Wormtail is never given a high rank. He's not at the strategy meetings. He's not at the table of honor. By Half-Blood Prince, he's been reduced to being Snape's servant.
Literally serving him drinks, Snape's bub.
The guy who brought the Dark Lord back from the dead is a butler for the guy who, at that point, hadn't really done much of anything.
So spying isn't...
It can't be. If it were, Wormtail would have been rewarded. Snape has to be offering something else, something unique, something no one else, something more valuable than Bellatrix's loyalty or money.
And that has to be his skill.
His unparalleled genius-level skill in potions and experimental dark magic. He wasn't Voldemort's best soldier, he was his best magical inventor.
Which makes sense. We know Voldemort himself is a skilled potioneer. He made that incredibly complex potion in the graveyard.
Right, the bone of the father, flesh of the servant, blood of the enemy potion. He knows his way around a cauldron.
But Snape's on another level. He's always shown to be an innovator.
Just look at his own school year. James and Sirius were talented, but they were focused on prank. Lupin was smart, the Hermione of his time, but we never hear about him inventing new...
And even Lily, who Slughorn says was one of his best students.
She wasn't at Snape's level of experimental math. Slughorn thinks Harry gets his talent from Lily, but the genius in that textbook, that was all Snape.
So the conclusion is pretty clear. Snape was the best potions master of his generation, maybe in the whole country at that. And that knowledge, that wasn't just academic.
It was current, and it was the key that let him climb the ladder over everyone.
Okay, so we've established why he needed a special skill. Now we need to look at how he used it. Because it's not just about being good at potions, right? It's about his specific inclination.
Exactly. We need to look at the Half-Blood Prince's resume.
This wasn't just a student getting good grades. He was like a revolutionary. He fills his textbook with notes, with improvements, with little tweaks to make every single potion more potent, more efficient.
He's not just following the recipe, he's rewriting the cookbook.
Yeah, he's publishing the unauthorized supercharged version.
And it's not just about ingredients, it's technique. Remember the draft of Living Death? He adds that counterclockwise stir. He crushes the bean instead of cutting it.
These are high-level chemical engineering adjustments. It's genius, but it's genius focused on optimization and power.
And his mastery goes beyond brewing. This is the crucial part. He was also an inventor of spells.
Right. Some were practical, like Muffliato, keep people from eavesdropping.
And Levicorpus, which was sort of a prank. But then there's the other one.
Sectum Sempra.
Sectum Sempra is the smoking gun. It's a dark curse. It's an invisible sword that causes deep bleeding wounds. It is lethal.
And inventing something like that as a teenager, that shows a very specific, very dark inclination. This goes way beyond just schoolyard curiosity.
It's a desire to create new ways to cause harm. And it tells you everything you need to know about his early commitment to the dark art. We know Lily was appalled by it.
Right. We have to remember, for this theory to work, we're looking at a young Snape. A Snape who was, at that point, fully dedicated to Voldemort's cause.
This is the critical period. He wasn't Dumbledore's spy yet. He was only flipped in 1980 after he heard the prophecy and traded his service to Dumbledore to protect Lily.
Before 1980, he's all in. He's eager to prove himself, to provide any service he can to the Dark Lord to get a seat at the table.
And that gives us the perfect window of opportunity for the Drink of Despair.
Okay, lay out the dates for us.
The timeline is chillingly precise. Snape graduates from Hogwarts in 1978.
78, got it.
We know that Regulus Black defects and goes to the cave in 1979.
Okay.
And Kreacher confirms that Voldemort borrowed him to set up the potion in that same year, 1970.
Wow. So Snape graduates in 78, the potion is in place by 79. That gives him this one-year window as a highly motivated young Death Eater eager to impress his new boss.
It's his chance to leapfrog all the older, richer Death Eaters and show what he can do before the prophecy changes everything.
And that detail about Kreacher is so important. Voldemort needed Kreacher to test the potion.
He needed a disposable test subject because the potion was so experimental. He had no idea what it was.
That sounds like the perfect first assignment for your brand new, genius-level, dark arts-loving potions master.
Exactly. It confirms this wasn't some off-the-shelf dark potion. It was a new invention.
So We have the right place, the right time, the right skills, the right motive, all before he becomes a spy.
But here's where it gets really compelling. The argument isn't just circumstantial, it's psychological, the very nature of the potion. It has Snape fingerprints all.
Okay, so let's get into the signature of suffering. What does this potion actually do?
It doesn't just poison you, it tortures you by forcing you to relive your worst, most painful, most traumatic memories.
When Dumbledore drinks it, he just collapses.
Yeah.
He's begging for mercy, forced to see Grindelwald torturing his family to relive the trauma of his sister's death.
And the argument in the source material is that this specific kind of torture, this weaponized memory, it's rooted more deeply in Snape's psychology than anyone else.
Who else in the whole series is so completely driven by their worst memories?
It's Snape. It's always Snape. There's literally a chapter called Snape's Worst Memory. He never gets over his trauma. He is perpetually defined by the shame and the humiliation.
I mean, you could even contrast him with someone like Luna Lovegood.
That's a great comparison. Luna is also an outcast. She's bullied constantly, but she just lets it all beat off her, She defines herself by her own curiosity.
Snape never lets anything go. He holds on to every single slight, every humiliation for decades.
And that memory-driven pain fuels everything he does. He hates Harry because Harry's face.
The memory dictates his every interaction with this innocent kid.
And you could even make a darker argument about Neville. Some sources suggest he resents Neville so much because Neville could have been the child in the prophecy.
And if it had been Neville, Lily would have lived.
Exactly. The pain of that memory of Lily's choice, it drives his cruelty.
So if the worst possible thing Snape can imagine, the absolute worst form of torture, is being forced to relive shame and regret,
then it stands to reason that when his Dark Lord asks him to create the ultimate defense, that is exactly the torture. He weaponized the greatest.
And we have proof of how powerful that pain is for him.
We do. When Harry breaks into his mind during
the moment Harry sees Snape's worst memory, the humiliation by James, and then Lily calling him a mudblood.
That moment is the only time Snape breaks his mission. His entire life at that point is dedicated to two things: defeating Voldemort and protecting Lily.
And yet the sheer agony of having that memory, of having that shame exposed, it was so intense that pushed him past his vow of always.
It broke him. He abandoned the mission. He refused to teach Harry anymore, even knowing how dangerous that was. The trauma was more powerful than anything.
So if that's his ultimate weakness, his ultimate trigger,
it's what he would build his ultimate weapon. The Drink of Despair is a devious creation that bears all the psychological markings of Snape.
And it wasn't just the potion, was it? The whole setup in the cave was incredibly complex dark magic. You got to cross a ring of fire.
And the lake was filled with inferi, reanimated corpses. That whole defense system was designed by a master of the dark.
It's much more likely that Voldemort outsourced the complex chemical and magical engineering to his best specialist.
To Severus Snape.
Okay, so if we accept this theory, if Snape really created the Drink of Despair, it totally changes his role in the story, especially on the night Dumbledore died.
It does. It means he played an even greater, though unknowing, role in Dumbledore. He supplied the very tool that weakened him so severely right before the final conflict.
But we have to be careful here, right? He didn't know what it was for.
The sources are pretty clear on that. He was almost certainly unaware it was Horcrux. If he had known Voldemort had Horcruxes way back in 1979, he would have told Dumbledore.
Right, that would have changed the entire war.
Yeah.
But even if he didn't know what it guarded, creating this master fits a pattern, doesn't it?
The Horcrux guardianship pattern, yes. High rank equals you get to protect a Horcrux.
Look at Lucius Malfoy. He was Voldemort's right-hand man before Snape.
Yeah.
He was given the diary to protect.
He did a terrible job, obviously. He got it destroyed and accidentally gave Dumbledore the biggest clue of the whole series, but he was the one trusted.
And then there's Bellatrix, another top Death Eater. She gets the cup to hide in her Gringotts vault.
And the key thing is, neither Lucius nor Bellatrix knew what these objects really were. They just knew they were valuable to the Dark Lord, and they used their own resources to protect them. Lucius used his influence, Bellatrix her vault.
But with Snape, the theory argues it worked the other way around.
Exactly. This distinction is so important. Lucius and Bellatrix guarded objects. Snape didn't just guard an object, he created the entire complex, bespoke security system around it.
He invented the defense mechanism.
The sheer genius of that defense, this unique psychological weapon, is what demonstrated his incredible value to Voldemort. It's how he earned the high rank. Creating this masterpiece is what got him the #2 spot, because no one else could have.
So he didn't get the job because of his rank. He got the rank because of the job he did.
Precisely. He provided a service that was more valuable than an army of loyal killers. He could weaponize trauma itself.
It all clicks into place.
Yeah.
The timing, the skills, the psychological profile, it all points to Snape.
All roads lead back to him being the dark architect of that.
Which means we really have to reevaluate his entire character. He's not just a tragic hero. He's a cautionary tale about what happens when genius decides to serve dark. So let's just review the main insight here. The drink of despair isn't just some dark potion. It's a creation that weaponizes memory and despair. And that is a specialty that feels perfectly tailored to the mind of Severus Snape.
It really makes you rethink the title of the sixth book, doesn't it? The Half-Blood Prince.
Right.
It's not just the guy who wrote notes in a textbook.
No.
If this theory is correct, the Half-Blood is also the secret creator of this incredibly potent, incredibly dark potion. It's the perfect mix of his scientific genius and his mastery of the dark arts.
And the implications are they're huge. It means the man who dedicated his life to protecting Lily's son also, unknowingly, supplied the ultimate defense for Voldemort's soul.
And a key weapon used in Dumbledore's own death. It shows just how devastating his early choices, his early ambition really were.
Which leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought for you to consider.
And it's a big one. How would the relationship between Snape and Dumbledore have been different if Dumbledore had known years before they went to that cave that the man he trusted above all others was the one who invented that specific form of psychological torture by... Would Dumbledore's trust have been so absolute if he knew his most important spy had created the very thing that almost destroyed him on that rock?
That is a deeply unsettling question, and it perfectly captures the painful, necessary complexity of Severus Snape. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep digging.